We are on the final stretch for today, day one of 3 days of the first Caribbean Creative Entrepreneur Virtual Summit. And now we are going to hear from creatives across the Caribbean Sea, moderated by the Fashion Archers founder, Miss Ayn Earl. These creatives will be giving us some insight into their businesses, background, inspirations, and so much more. I welcome Ayn to join us once more. Ayn Earl, the founder of the Fashion Arch, to join us. Once again, thank you to our sponsors, Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago, and the Global Entrepreneurship Week of Trinidad and Tobago for their support of this event. Thank you to TCJ Events, to Caribbean Posh, and of course to Black Collar Creative. Ayn?
Thank you, Janine. Thank you so much. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Well, yes, it's afternoon now. We are wrapping up with our final panel for the afternoon, where we are actually going to be discussing some great insights from Caribbean creatives across the sea. So let me read their bios and I'll bring them on one by one. One person I'm not seeing just yet, but hope he joins us soon. So we begin first with Afia. Owner of Loud by Afia and Loud Accents, the brand positively impacts women's lives through vibrant colors and prints. Afia started her retail business and design career at the young age of 16. She attended UTT, where she studied fashion management. There, her eyes were open to the world of fashion, which led to designing her own jewelry and subsequently selling as a result of requests from persons who loved her designs. She has represented Trinidad and Tobago. Well, you're seeing my video because I'm not seeing it on the other side. She represented Trinidad and Tobago in Carrie Festival and when it was hosted in Barbados in 2017. Thereafter, she was invited by Irie Jam Radio to Irie Fashion Rave, a fashion show and pop-up in New York's Roosevelt Field Mall. The brand has also done pop-up shops in Miami, Barbados, and Jamaica. Welcome, Afia. You're muted.
Oh, thanks, Ayin. Hi, Ayin. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Afia. Happy to be here.
All right. Next, we have Ticia Bennett of Rev Jewelry. Ticia is the current CEO and co-founder of the international award-winning Rev Jewelry and Accessories based in Kingston, Jamaica since 2006. The company promotes and retails Jamaican and Caribbean accessories and jewelry designers. The brand has raised locally and contributed approximately US $10,000 through its various charities. Ticia is a graduate of University of Technology and UE in Jamaica, and since 2014, she served as one of 3 CARICOM representatives to the Association of Caribbean States organization, and she enjoys networking and imparting her expertise to the creative industry, particularly emerging designers. Her latest project is Fashionably Speaking, and she's now a mother and resides in Jamaica, where you can join her at Ticia Rev Bennett and Rev Jewelry. Hi, Ticia.
Hi, how are you ladies doing?
Good, and you?
I'm great, thank you. Good to see you.
Right. Same here. Now we're back to Trinidad. We have James Hackett of Lush Kingdom. James Hackett is an illustrator and designer working out of Trinidad and Tobago. He has a career that spans across advertising, carnival, print design, illustration, rhapsody, which is a musical subgenre, writing, fine art, and animation. An alumnus of University of Trinidad and Tobago, Hackett has embraced a career combining several of his past experiences from all creative fields he has touched. Since graduating, he has been building his creative company, Lush Kingdom, focusing on illustration, print, and design, creating new inspired pieces of apparel, home and decor, and creative brand services for the wider creative community. Thanks for being with us, James.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, James.
Hi.
All right. And last but not least, we have David Roll of Rafaelita out of Bahamas. David is a Bahamian-born fashion designer. He is known throughout the Caribbean after appearing on 2 seasons of the reality TV series Mission Catwalk. It's a Caribbean spin-off of Project Runway. Roll has walked away from the All-Stars season as an overall winner. His brand, Rafaelita, embodies the feel and look of glamorous island life. His new collection celebrates 10 years in fashion. Rafaelita is a reflective of Roll's island roots and vibrant childhood. He invites his customer to simply live the palm life. Thanks, David, for joining us.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
All right. So great. So we have, of course, it's a regional panel. It's a Caribbean creators from across the sea. So we really want to start off, I guess. We will start on home soil with Afia. just kind of tell us a bit about your business. We know we did say Loud by Afia, and we spoke about some of your experiences. Why Loud? Why that name Loud? And what has made you kind of come into fashion or become a fashion designer?
Okay, so why Loud? I chose the name Loud. I wanted something that begins with the letter L to pay tribute to my grandfather, who was very near and dear to my heart. And I felt like I wanted to design for the woman who I wanted to be. I wanted to be fearless, and I felt like Loud was such a good name because women are often taught we need to be seen and not heard. And I was so fed up of being taught that because I felt like I had a lot to say. And loud clothing, like you'll see me coming before you hear me, and you're also going to listen to me as well. So that's why I chose the name Loud, where it's really about woman empowerment. And why did I get into fashion? I always knew that I never knew what I really wanted to do. Being a fashion designer, anything creative, it wasn't really pushed in my family. I have a lot of doctors and lawyers and engineers, so it was always more about something that was more structured. Art is, whenever I wanted to do something creative, that was like, you should do that as a hobby, not your full-time career. But going to UTT and studying fashion management really opened up my eyes to see how much money is in this trillion-dollar industry, and that there is space for me. And you can do it full-time for a living and, you know, be very comfortable or more than comfortable, and you could be rich off of this industry. So that's why I started designing as well.
All right, thank you for that. And James as well, coming from Trinidad as well. I know your background and experience is a lot. It's wide ranging, and you can be considered a true creative with all that you do. From doing the illustrations, from the rap, so for writing and different things. Because I don't know, for those who might have been who are online, if they know about Vox magazine, that you are a writer back in the day. You are now doing a Lush Kingdom in a different space and a different sphere from when you started. What do you think has kind of inspired your journey?
All right. So forgive me if I miss a few things. My audio keeps cutting on my end, but
Okay.
first of all, just happy to be here with so many other talented people who I admire. Right. So it's glad to be here among you guys. Um, for me, just getting into fashion felt like an extension for all the things that I was interested in. Right. And it really just came back to having a platform to do wonderful Caribbean storytelling and putting that on clothing, being able to use illustration and in some aspects stories and visuals. It just felt like a great place to get all of those things together. And I've been having such a good time, such a fun time, like doing that over and over and finding new ways to improve it and get better and learn and grow and so forth. So it's very exciting to see where we can go next.
All right, thank you for that. And then we are kind of the south of the Caribbean, so we go kind of to the tippy top with David. In terms of, if you can just give us a bit of, you would have had some experience at least at some of these fashion shows and competitions. And I know you said too that some of them, based on your bio, your inspiration because of your childhood. What made you really get into fashion?
Hi again, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you guys are. So I think fashion chooses you. You don't get the opportunity to just say, well, some people do, but truly people.
Morning.
I was breaking up. Sorry. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I can barely hear you. Should I continue? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know.
Oh,
I can
awesome.
hear you fine, but Ayin is breaking up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Ayin is breaking up.
So I was saying that from my personal experience, I feel like fashion chooses you. I've been a creative my entire life. I remember being a child and not fitting in and not knowing where to place all of the energy and my creative genius, and not knowing that I was an artist. When I started university, I was actually studying hospitality and tourism management. I guess naturally coming from the Bahamas, you want to think about where you're going to make the money. But fashion chose me and it didn't let go. I about this makes 11 years. This year makes 11 years that I'm a fashion designer and that I've been doing this full time. And it's just the most rewarding, most gratifying thing to wake up every day and just to show the world what God has placed inside you, to express yourself. So fashion definitely chose me. I don't remember the first part of your question. I think it's tell you a little bit about my brand, but I am inspired every day by Caribbean women. I think that Caribbean women are God's greatest gift. I think he was showing off, and I feel that I am a privileged person that I get to dress Caribbean women and be inspired to show the audacity of Bahamian women and how loud they can be.
All right, thank you for that, David. This is bringing on Janine here so she could continue.
No problem, Ayn. Thank you so much for that, David. So inspiring. The loudness and vivacity of Bahamian women is all over your work. And we see that being echoed in Afia's work as well, her wanting to, give a contribution to her family member and also to kind of represent the kind of woman that she wants to be. I know that the Lush Kingdom has similar origins in terms of bold fabric design, bold patterns, taking center stage in your work, James. Before we get to you, James, we'll go to Tisha. Tell us about Reeve. I'm so sorry. And I did French in school. I should know this symbol. Could you please correct me? I'm so
You
sorry.
should. Morning again, everyone. It's Rev.
Rev.
It's actually pronounced Rev, and it's fine. It's fine. You should hear how they butcher it in Jamaica.
No, I don't want to be part of that contingent at all. Leave me far from that. Rev. Tell us. We know it's a family business.
That's fine.
So who is involved
Yes.
and who does what?
It's just lovely to hear from everyone, and I should say, David, I love what you said about Caribbean women. Mwah. Lots of love from Jamaica for that. But Rev is actually the French word for dream, and my brother is a creative genius of our company. So yeah, we're family established, family owned, from concept to design, everything we do, because Jamaica, as a Jamaican, I know that when we do something good, we can be really good at it, or we can be really bad at it. And we help women, especially Caribbean women and women of color, our roots. And so our pieces from just inception all the way through is inspired by everything that is positive about Jamaica and about the Caribbean. And our goal is really to be a global brand, which echoes all the images of everything that's good, from our food, because we're foodies, to our personalities, to the people that we meet, everything that is positive, our music, because Jamaica is so much more than just reggae music and sports and so on. And it's as David says, I share the sentiment. He said, it's wonderful to be able to wake up and be able to share something that God's placed in your heart, and for it to be received so positively. So my brother and I started our company in 2006. He was still finding his way as an artist. And we decided to name the company Rev because we've always known that we wanted to be entrepreneurs. We grew up in a home where both our parents did their own small businesses. And we thought it was important to do that. The positive side of being able to create something from an idea and see impacting somebody else in such a positive way. Just never knew we'd be working together, that we'd be doing a jewelry company. Dwayne, who is my business partner and my brother I'm talking about, is actually the goldsmith in our company. So he's trained as a fan jeweler, but as he always liked to say, artists they're born, they're not made. And he's a natural artist. He just uses jewelry as his medium, but he sculpts, he does all of these wonderful things. I started wearing pieces because I found that it resonated with my style. I love traveling, was just going about my business, studied something completely different in school. I did tourism. I wanted to be a chef, so I did that for a while. And I also did French. So I went to live in France, and being over there to see what was going on, I realized that I longed to be a roadmap, to be more. And when I came home and saw what my brother was doing, I was like, oh my God, this is not where this is supposed to be. And I was like, do you think you can go to school? He was like 18. You know, we were very, I'm like, I'm going to.
Okay, we're having a bit of technical
I
issues
started
with
with
the
pieces,
connection.
and women started offering me money to wear the pieces as well.
Tisha, we're having a bit of. Oh.
Yeah.
Where
So I started wearing his pieces, which are really wearable art, and men started I was wearing, and we did the work, found out how all the things that are needed to start a company in Jamaica, and you know the rest is history. We started in 2006, opened up our store at Devon House in 2009, and we've been building out since then, with our goal being very clear of building a global brand, helping other women of color bring to life their personal style through accessories.
excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that insight into Rev and your business partner Dwayne. You know, doing art is one thing, but doing art with jewelry is a totally new ball game because you're working in a 3D space, similar to fashion. So let's hear from James now from the Lush Kingdom. Tell us a bit about your business. So far, we're seeing a common theme, the inspiration being the Caribbean woman. She's so versatile and wonderful that everybody pulls different things from her and has come up with these creative outputs and outlets. Tell us about the Lush Kingdom, James, and your vision.
So Lush Kingdom really started as a way of looking at our environment, the Caribbean environment, right? For me, it really was looking at the Northern Range, going home an afternoon, seeing those green hills and the sky, and just feeling very happy to be born in this part of the world. And it continues to grow out of that, just finding ways of showcasing these beautiful aspects of Caribbean life. And the story goes on. Sometimes it's celebrating the wonderful women of the Caribbean, but that is expanding now to other people that live here. Of course, the men that are here as well, and celebrating all these positive things that we have about our lives, right? And as time goes on, I'll kind of get into some of those things, but it's really just kind of showcasing that and trying as best as we can to elevate it to a level where it feels like it could stand next to all these great designers that we look at and appreciate from all the other places around the world.
Fantastic. So global aspirations all the way around from all our panelists today.
All the time.
Our Caribbean audacity, so to speak, is always to kind of push our culture out and ensure that we put our foot on the map of our tiny archipelago, producing all this great creative content. So the next question for all of us, and I'll start with Afia, is to talk about Caribbean women and creativity. You started talking about you wanted to make a brand for the type of woman that you wanted to be. And you don't want to automatically assume loud is somebody who has to be loud and or audacious and brashy. But can you tell us what are some of the major inspiration for your products and the brand itself? Afia?
Are you guys talking to me? Because I can't
Yes.
hear anything.
Can you hear me at all? Are you hearing me at all? Wave if you can see what's happening on screen. Okay, well, we'll come back to you, Afia. Let's go to David. Okay, no, not to David. Let's go to Tisia. Tisia, let's hear from you again. What are some of the major inspirations for your products and the brand itself? So when you're going global, what is the kind of key selling proposition that you're going to be pushing out to that international market?
Well, for us, to be honest, I used to be so timid to express this, but I've grown in confidence over time. We are definitely producing pieces for women of color, and a Caribbean woman is, especially like the Jamaican motto reflects that, out of many one people. Caribbean women are so versatile, we're so dynamic, and the Caribbean diaspora is a real thing. Like, we're all over the world. So whether someone is born in Trinidad or in Jamaica or Bahamas, it doesn't matter. Once they have a parent or a grandparent or someone who's from the Caribbean, they very much tend to gravitate to that and feel like they're Caribbean because of that, because they're rooted in that. And so that is who we're going for. That's a woman we're trying to help express their unique sense of style and history and everything that is beautiful about being Caribbean. And so for my brother, I know we definitely both inspire each other. And for us, it's our music, it's our food, it's the people that we travel and meet as we bring the Rev brand outside of Jamaica. And I find that even though our target is women of color, we do have all sorts of women that buy our pieces, from Caucasian to Japanese to all over. So I think for us, the pieces are really resonating with women specifically who feel like the pieces they're bold and they help them to show off something that's inside of them. And sometimes you can just put on a Rev piece. You don't need to say anything. You just enter a room, and that's what we go for. We want people to we're unapologetically bold, and that's what we do. Anything that really helps us to feel and to translate that through our pieces is what we do.
And to tap into that Caribbean ethos of what it means to be from this region and from this culture.
Yes.
Afia, I
Yes.
want to tap back to you because it's so intriguing, the name of your brand, Loud. And I know you shared a short piece of the kind of the inspiration behind it. But can we hear a bit more in terms of what are some of the major inspirations for your products and brand?
Some of the major inspirations for me is really just women. I just feel like we are such powerful beings because so much is expected of us. Like we can't really drop the ball with anything. From the time you are not a good mother, you also have to be, this woman at work, this force of nature, and you can't drop the ball. So much is always expected of us. And I feel like we always succeed and we meet all the goals and all the targets. And we are not celebrated as much as we should.
And how
Because
does that translate into your fashion? How do you represent that now in your product?
by my bold prints and pieces, I feel like sometimes women feel like they need to wear dark colors to be taken seriously, because still, even though we have all these roles and we excel in all these things, we are not taken as seriously as men. And I'm not a man, I'm not bashing men or anything like that, because they deserve praise for everything that they've done. But I am sorry, I just feel like we do it all, and yet still we always have to try to prove that we are better than or just as good as. And I wanted women to know you could wear these bright, bold, happy colors and still be taken seriously. You could be the head of the boardroom, you could be running your own business, you could be at home, whatever your version of success is. But these bright colors, because I mean, this is not just me saying it, this is also color therapy. When you wear bright, beautiful colors and prints, you feel better, your mood changes. So I just wanted to tie that in, as well as I do a lot of work with African prints. And originally it did start off as me wanting us to feel okay to proudly wear our culture, because I admire so many other religions. Indians wear their saris and stuff. It doesn't have to be Diwali or any specific day, but to me, in my store, women come in, oh, I love these things, I'll buy it for emancipation. And it's like, no, you don't only have to wear African print and these bright colors for emancipation. This is clothes that you can wear any day, every day of your life. So that is really what I wanted to do as well. Just push that it is okay. Like, you don't have to just wait for this one specific day and then put it back and wear all these European and Western world styles. This is true to us, and we need to be proud of it, and we need to know more about it, because honestly, some of us, we don't really know that much. So that is what I wanted to do with Loud. And I think I am very happy that I am getting to do this, and show like, hey, and get women into doing it, get women into feeling okay about and being proud about wearing it. And just as African women wear it, other races are appreciating it as well. And I kind of wanted to be like, not just, is African print, but it's for everybody.
Yes. And it's so important to acknowledge the melting pot and the multicultural impact of the Caribbean. And in Trinidad and Tobago, that is actually more stark, I think, than many of the other islands. So, David, I want to go to you now. I know that in Bahamas, there's its own, it has its own culture and its own mix and its own eccentricities. Can you tell us a bit about your brand and the inspiration behind the brand, but also following off on Afia's theme? what are some of the cultural elements that may or may not inspire you as well in what you provide with your brand? You may need to unmute before you respond to us. Just click off and then we can go.
So sorry.
That's okay.
So I think that as creatives, we have a responsibility to tell a story of where we come from. And also we have an opportunity to kind of forecast where we're going. I think that one of the things that I set out to do was to identify a look for Bahamian fashion. I think that Bahamian fashion currently, in all honesty, is kind of watered down by us being in such close proximity to the US. And we, as Bahamian people, have taken on a lot of their culture. So if you look at my most recent collection, which is called Zephyr, which means a soft and gentle breeze, I think it pulls back at our diaspora. It's a collection of all white cottons and linens and ilex, and I felt like that felt more organic to who I am naturally. So I feel like I have a responsibility to tell my country's story, to create a fashion identity, because I'm not certain that my country has a fashion identity. I remember my first time in Trinidad, which was about 10 years ago. I went to San Fernando Fashion Week and I showed at their show. And the ladies in the front row were beautifully dressed with African prints and hair ties and elaborate jewelry. And I hadn't seen that before, because women in my country traditionally and typically, they wear a Calvin Klein dress, or they're wearing something from Macy's or Nordstrom. And I went to other Caribbean countries and I saw how much these women who would go to these fashion shows and these fashionable events, they would be wearing local designers. And that was a little unheard of and a little strange for me. So I knew what my assignment was, and I knew what I had to put in place and start for the generation after me. So I feel like I have a responsibility to create a fashion identity for this country. And I pull from the diaspora. I don't know how many of you would have seen my recent collection, but it's glamorizing where we come from. Everybody see the white dresses and the straw bags, and the shoot was done at a landmark carved out by slaves. So it kind of played on a plantation, the whole plantation lifestyle, but in the most glamorous way. I kind of wanted to, almost like giving a gift to my ancestors. Like, I may not have been there when you guys were slaves, but I saw photos and I've heard stories. And if I could take everything that I know from that time and let that be my inspiration and present that in the most island chic way, that was the assignment. And I hope by doing that, I've started something. This is all in my head, of course, but I hope that by doing this, it starts to get more Bahamians thinking, where do we come from? What is our fashion identity? I don't even know if that answers the question, but I felt
No, it does. It perfectly does, David, because oftentimes we aren't curious enough about each other as islands separated by this one small Caribbean sea. We see our own patch of island with sand and beach and sea. Everybody thinks they're the greatest things in sliced bread, but there's so many other Caribbean influences that can come into the mix in terms of our design. And we see that happening at regional fashion shows. So I know that there's Caribbean Fashion Week in Jamaica, there's the Port of Spain Fashion Week, San Fernando Fashion Week, Tobago Coda. There's so many different places where you can showcase your work, but you can see a common Caribbean theme coming out of the mix. So, I mean, all of us in the panel today, well, excluding myself, I'm not a fashion designer. I just wear fashion. If it could only come in my size. Sorry, a little piece of shade there.
That's another discussion.
We're going to talk about challenges now, because now we have the pandemic, which is a great challenge. And I think more and more fashion designers, internationally anyway, we're seeing the trends. Sorry to make it a plus size thing, but we are seeing the trends where it's changing. People are not only romanticizing their individual lives, but they also want to romanticize their unique looks. and a lot more customers are kind of making demands on designers to fit their perspective, to fit their aesthetic. Some people tend to go in with the flow, and some people tend to buy into what the designer is preparing and providing to the market. But for you individually, and I'll start here with James, what are some of the challenges that you have been facing, not just in the pandemic, but in the Caribbean and the pandemic, and how are you overcoming these challenges? And any advice to up-and-coming fashion designers who may be facing the same? I mean, I know that's a kind of unfair question because everybody has their unique journey,
Yeah.
but you never know. You know, your road that you walk might save somebody else on their walk as well. James? So first question, working in the Caribbean, what are some of the general challenges that you experience? What are some of the challenges that are being happening because of the pandemic? And any advice for future fashion designers?
Well, how much time we have?
We have time. Go through. I'll give you 2 minutes.
A lot of our challenges, sometimes it's very similar to what people are experiencing around the world as well. We tend to get hit a little bit harder because of our connection to sourcing and our connection to where we can produce, right? Because now we have like either extra steps we have to go through, or extra costs we may have to incur to move things around and get things happening. The wonderful opportunity that has occurred because of the pandemic is a lot of these things have been reduced or changed because of the advance of digitization. So for me, one of the things I was researching during the pandemic was looking at how much people are using 3D fashion, especially we're seeing it on the cosmetic side, on the products that we're seeing on the end in terms of digital products and NFTs and games and all these kinds of things. But there are very technical things that are involved in the production process that 3D has been aiding and making it cheaper in a lot of aspects, because now you can do almost everything you want to do in terms of producing a garment using 3D technology, and then just send that to get produced, and it comes back and the fit is very close to what you've started with, right? That is a great opportunity for folks working in the Caribbean, because now you just need to focus on that instead of having to go through so many extra steps working with a factory or garment producers. So that is something that I think it's an opportunity for Caribbean designers really to start looking into. And the cost, it reduces the cost for a lot of different companies that should be coming up, you know. So there's some competitive advantages that we can pay attention to there. For me personally, with Lush Kingdom, what we've done, we've kind of looked at other ways we could service the fashion community. So we've actually, as has been seen, we've actually moved into where we would do some of these services that we do for ourselves in terms of print design, technical design, illustration, a number of other processes that people would usually outsource or hire team members to do. Lush Kingdom has been starting to do that for the companies, and it's been working out really well. We've done print designs for other fashion designers.
Right.
We've offered actual fabric prints, so like one that I have in the back of me here, for sale, so that people could get something that was designed with the Caribbean in mind. And that has also been doing well. Most of the collections that have been released over the last year or so have been sold out with requests for more options and more fabrics. So it's just a matter of being able to scale that up in a way that could work well for a number of other designers. So I think there are a lot of opportunities. I think the main last thing that we need is a way that we could do finance properly between each other. That would make it easier to do commerce, to do e-commerce, and I think that might be like the last big hurdle. So I'm looking forward to us getting some help with that from our administrators and financial companies and so forth.
I like how you dropped that right at the end there. You know, we're hoping to get a little support of the.
Yes.
Well placed, James. Well placed. Well, Ayn is back with us. So before we continue, I'd just like to hand over to her. James, thank you so much. You've given us some nice jumping off points And Ayn, I'll welcome you back now to take on the rest of
No
the panel.
problem at all. Thank you. I hope you all are hearing me now. So I just going to continue with the conversation. And before that, I actually would like to kind of just shout out again, just in my lush. So I'm in my Caribbeanness today, in my lush kingdom. So you can get, of course, all of the color. And then there's the simple black and white that still does represent who we are based on the aesthetic that we have to offer. So I just want to continue the conversation. So I'll go back to TCL because we're talking about challenges, especially not just now with the pandemic, but also because of just any challenges that you've been having throughout your time as working with Rev and what you've been doing.
Yeah, well, there are many challenges in our field.
Oops, she just dropped off. So I don't know if David can take over in the meantime while we get her back on. So any challenges, and that's in terms of the way that you've been able to overcome some of these challenges throughout this time.
Yeah, well, I guess with every field, there are challenges. So no exception to fashion, and especially not within the Caribbean. So I think all of us share the same challenges. I like to live in an imaginary bubble where I don't really see challenges or consider them. I just like to do what I can to get what I need to have done. So it's kind of difficult for me to think about challenges right now, but
so I guess everything's going okay in Bahamas, especially even through the pandemic. You're all okay?
well, through the pandemic, I made collections. I made a 40-piece clothing collection.
Right, and at least through one thing you can talk about in terms of with your resilience, that you're even able still to actually show. Oh, oops, and he just dropped off. But I'll just kind of continue with that before he comes back on, that he was actually able. I hope that I'm there.
Another big Caribbean challenge, internet.
Okay,
That's
I'm sorry, I don't know if I had a drop out there. Just in terms of him. Yeah, it sure is. So why David has come back on, because I wanted to just kind of speak about, he was actually, hi David, are you back?
I'm back. I guess the internet is
yes, that you actually able, we were just talking about it. So main Caribbean challenge is technology, and not even technology, but internet service. It is a major challenge for us now, and we are looking forward to becoming more, at least a little more strong when it comes to that connectivity, if not in terms of, I don't know what it may be, but I know you spoke about you were able to do your collections, you were able to actually show in New York. So that's at least something that happened out of this pandemic in terms of we actually seeing the revamp now of some of these shows coming back on live and not just online. So how was that experience for you as well?
Well, definitely I was able to show at 3 different showings while at New York Fashion Week this year. The biggest one being Times Square Fashion Week, which was totally mind-blowing for me. Growing up, seeing Times Square in movies, so much hustle, so much bustle. Going to school in New York for a short time at Parsons, walking by Times Square every day, and then having Times Square stop and look at fashions from this little boy from the Bahamas was unbelievable and the most amazing experience. And I was just so happy that it was a collection that embodied Caribbean culture, Caribbean heritage, and really, I feel like I was really showing off for the Caribbean. That's exactly how I feel, and I hope that Caribbean people were proud as well. But the most amazing feeling.
I could just imagine, and I can say on behalf of the Caribbean, we are proud of you, because that is such a feat. And then too, as I said, to have such a showing at Times Square, be able to see video and imagery, and it really was such a great presentation, and to see that Caribbean vibe in that space, such a well-known, renowned space as well too. So congratulations on that. So Tisa, I see that you're back here, so hopefully we can get you back on to talk a bit about challenges. Well, challenge apart from internet connectivity.
You're at the moment, well, yeah, that's a big, obviously, challenge. Have to laugh. But for us, manufacturing has been something, and pandemic, ironically, has given us the opportunity to kind of slow down and to kind of focus on how we're going to remedy that somehow. So being a goldsmith is not a new thing in Jamaica or in the region, really. But we don't have the capacity so much. And so what we're focusing on, which is still a big thing, is the cost of manufacturing, and finding partners that can help us with capacity. I remember the first time we did an international event, we were barely a year old, and we had buyers from Macy's who wanted our pieces, and they wanted a whole ton of things at a very, very low cost. And for us, ultimately, what that did for us was to boost our confidence, to see that we were doing something that was appealing not only in Jamaica, but, you know, obviously there are people abroad as well, which was what our goal always has been. And it forced us to really go back to the drawing board, look at taking things, you know, from the angle of being investor ready, being able to, based on the number that's going to be required of us, looking at our cost, all of these things are things that we're still working in progress, still work in progress for us years later. So manufacturing costs and finding the right part has been a journey for us. And one of the things that makes a lot of excited to build out our own factory space and started even training, because my brother Dwayne is now teaching part-time, lecturing part-time to help train other young goldsmiths, because a lot of people call themselves Jewish.
Yeah, but the goldsmithing is a totally different ball game.
Yes, you know, is our raw material. So what I do is to incorporate pieces that is sourced, because that definitely things unique and different. But as I said, the industry, the infrastructure is really not there. So like in Jamaica, when we just started out, they found gold in Jamaica. Our government sold it out to a foreign investor, and then they draw from the market. And yeah, that was really, so at first we used to get gold. We used to get our own Jamaican gold to make things.
Yeah, and we spoke about as well too initially with Dr. Ptolemy, talking about like our natural resources and things being indigenous to what we have here. And here we are selling off what we have.
Selling off what we have, right? So that was interesting. But we started doing that, and we also have a lot of semi-precious stones naturally found in the rivers. Jamaica is so rich, like the rest of the Caribbean, with natural resources. Like for instance, in DR, you can find Larimar and amber. Jamaica, we have jaspers, we have chrysoprase. These are all semi-precious stones. Agates, we have serpent in abundance, but nobody is really doing it. So it's almost like there are so many. So the way I look at things, you know, like I feel like I found a soulmate here with David in Bahamas, you know, because like for us, a challenge is not in a negative way, but we as an opportunity to see how we can use those resources. And
yes,
being an entrepreneur, you really kind of have to have that kind of mindset. You have to be able to be flexible, adaptable. You have to be able to look at, you have to have a positive mindset. It's the first thing you need in doing business, full stop. And being able to, when you have that kind of attitude, you'll be able to look at things that regular people be like, oh God, that's and just light up with excitement and, you know, with the opportunities that present themselves. But those are some of the things we our industry that we're struggling with, like high manufacturing costs. So we need breaks with that. One of the positive things I've noticed, when we started in 2006, there were so many opportunities. Now we have companies like SIDA and so many other companies on board that is doing grant fund. We have so many donor companies that are giving to banks like the Jamaica Development Bank and stuff like that, which is facilitating financing somewhat for organizations. And of course, you can't be looking at grant funding as your only source. So you have to definitely make sure that you invest. I heard a previous presenter, Kimia from St. Vincent, spoke about this, being able to ensure that the infrastructure of your company is solid. Yes. Right? It's all wonderful when you're doing what you love, doing your passion, and be able to make money.
But it is a business at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, you really need to have a plan, a business plan. Look at how you're going to grow and scale your business where it makes sense, because you can scale quickly as well. You want to make sure Macy's came to us 2 years ago. We've been working intentionally on areas of our companies like IP, for example. I've seen where, even though we're an accessories designer, I've seen where they've used colors from the Caribbean. Like I can talk freely about like our community, the Rastafarian community in Jamaica, which made the red, green, and gold so popular and hip and cool and contemporary and trendy. And I've seen bigger brands borrow that concept and be able to run with, so IP is
very important.
Very important. Like I can't preach that enough. Like everything come across me, it was the best advice one of my early days gave me, and I freely give it to my other Caribbean designer. Invest in. We can't stop people from copying stuff, but that's something that we invest in heavily. So we've invested in it not only in Jamaica, but so far we are in Trinidad with it already, and other countries outside of Jamaica. Because it can be a very costly thing. You have to be very strategic about it based on your goals. Outside of Jamaica, one of the biggest challenges I have is with CARICOM in terms of the policy, the people, the gatekeepers, the people who are in charge. Basically, I would send, like we have a category for handmade sandals. I would send it to St. Vincent and to Cayman. Cayman is not a part of CARICOM, but just to mention them, to Trinidad and so on. And when it gets there, they don't recognize the policies that are in place. And so I've lost retailers because of that. Because when you get from Jamaica, even though we have all the documentation with the trade board and everything, all the due processes that you need to go through, when it gets there, the customs are like, you have to pay this amount of money, and you end up paying triple the cost.
Yes, and then you lose out so much on it.
Yes, and it's impossible for a retail partner to sell the items. In our store here in Jamaica, it's the same thing for us. When people send their things to us, because I should mention, our showroom doesn't only sell our work, but we also and we try to bring. So our space is all about promoting and highlighting handmade, quality artisanal work from Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. I've gotten beautiful work from other islands, and then I can't, because by the time they come to customs, Lord help us when we're clear.
It's so true, yes.
And I'm like, what? Are we trying to work together, or are you trying to cut people? I'm confused. And so that's a problem I have. And I've done so many international training and workshops and different artisans where I've learned, for example, there's free movement. If you're moving something from South America into North America, there are no customs. So they have their regulations which facilitate and fosters and allows growth of businesses. Because if they're moving something from Mexico into the US or from Canada into the US or vice versa, they don't have this kind of the red tape, fees and stuff, which makes it difficult to trade among ourselves. So that is something that I'm hoping that our governments and all the people them in charge can really take a look. I'm appeal, and this is why I literally seek out other companies and try to represent Jamaica and other artisans who can themselves on these organizations to really come together to see how we can really attack these things so that we can do business. I want to wear designer from other Caribbean islands. I feel good. I wear everything handmade, and I don't think I should, have to
spend all of that money.
Auction a kidney and sell blood.
Totally understand. It is a lot to deal with, and I do get what you're saying, because we just want to quickly just make James have a last statement before he has to get out. But thank you so much, TC. We'll come back to you quickly at the end. But just in terms of what she was saying, and it's so true that in terms of challenges, because we see it, I'm sure if you follow the Rev page, you would see sometimes when TC is sometimes lamenting a bit in terms of when she has issues with shipping and FedEx and the cost and all of these things. It's something that we do, but a great thing that she would have given in terms of her advice is looking at IP and how we protect what we have and looking at our resources. So before we wrap up, James, and I know because you have to leave soon, if you could just give us a final bit of advice to anyone who thinks that this is the path that they want to take. They want to be a creative entrepreneur. Give them just one bit of advice.
Have thick skin and be creatively curious. You have to macro and look at everything.
I think the first part is that it is really correct in terms of having thick skin. This is not for the weak at heart. Yeah, it is not for the weak at heart. And you have to see what's going on, and you're not living in a bubble. And
Exactly.
yeah, I do like that. So have thick skin. And what was the second part again?
Be creatively curious.
Be creatively curious. Keep
Yeah.
learning, keep researching, keep seeing what's happening on the outdoors. You are not in a
Be
bubble.
a good proper Mako.
A good Mako. I like it.
Yeah.
Yes. A professional Mako, a creative Mako, if you like it, if for
Yes.
want of a better term. But thank you again, James, for being here with us. And again, guys,
Thank you, guys.
before he leaves, have thick skin, and of course, be creatively curious. Yeah. So I just want to go across.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Thank you, James. So before we wrap up, so two things in terms of a bit of your challenges, and then if you could give us a last bit of advice. But if you some challenges that you've been seeing throughout your career, and then even now with the pandemic, and then a bit of advice.
One of the biggest challenges for me is coming from the Caribbean. A lot of all these websites and all these payment portals or gateways are not for Caribbean users. So I literally had to wait for WePay to emerge and
I think Janet, sorry to cut you, but I know Janet Bryn did speak about that earlier, about that payment structure.
Because coming from the Caribbean, PayPal takes 1 month to submit the money to your account. So they basically hold your money for a month. And even if you are sending for someone, it takes that long as well. And it is really difficult. I mean, even if I do a wire transfer, it's hard because of the lack of US. So having payment for me was the biggest challenge, as well as website building, because first I used Square because all I had was PayPal. And then when I switched from Square, I had to find a payment gateway that would accept WePay. So finally having that done, I mean, like, it all took a really long time, having to switch. And really all I did was, when I was going through that, was I just kept researching. I just kept looking for what new was happening, because I couldn't let that hold me back. And of course, now the other challenge with WePay is that it's not known internationally, so people may not trust it. So I kind of have to put on the site, I have to explain what it is, like it's a Caribbean PayPal, so that customers would feel safe about it. But I always try to focus on solutions and not the problems. So I'm always looking for a way to make purchasing easier for my clients. Shipping is also a big issue because of the cost. So just coming from the Caribbean, it's coming from far, but even within the Caribbean, I find shipping is also expensive. And even if I do, there's this CARICOM certificate of origin. Even if I do it, sometimes still customs, I'll have like suppliers calling me. Not suppliers, sorry. I have people who I send my designs to for their stores calling me.
Right, your customers themselves or the retailers.
Yeah. I'm not seeing it, and I'm at customs now, and they want to charge me full, and I'm like, listen, I stick that all over the box, like on the outside, it's on the inside of the box. Like, they need to pay attention.
It's not recognized for some reason or the other. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's almost as if maybe the heads know it, but not the people working at customs. And there needs to be like a constant good flow of communication between people who make these decisions and these laws and these rules,
and then who's actually
to the workers, exactly, who have to do it, because clearly it's not being passed down. The information is not being shared to everybody who works there, and it does discourage people, because now I have people who are like, okay, could you just bring it for me? So I have to literally fly in to bring it in my suitcase, because they just don't want to deal with customs, and that's difficult.
It's so true.
Yeah, I don't want to turn away a customer because of that, but then it's also harder for me to have to physically go to somewhere else. I mean, before I used to do it, but especially now with COVID and all these restrictions, and it's way more expensive to travel now, let alone have to do a COVID test every time you have to go somewhere and to return home. So it's just, it was really, really difficult, but I'm very happy that I am out of it. The challenge that I went through during COVID, the pandemic, was that I released a very dressy collection right before the lockdown. And that was crushing, because I felt like I did every single thing to promote that collection correctly.
Yes, and I think it was too one of your best in terms of presentations when it comes to the collection being presented. Spot on, guys. If you haven't, like I said, if you don't follow It's Loud by Afia on Instagram and Facebook, look out for the Sultry collection. It's such an amazing collection, and again, too, it still brings back some aspects of the Hispanic side or the Spanish side of the Caribbean in terms of the inspiration. Yeah.
So I did everything right, but of course, it wasn't what the market wanted at the time.
Timing.
And I just finished, I sold out of my last loungewear collection and the place was opening back up. And I was like, okay, let me bring out this dressy stuff. People coming back out. And then, no, lockdown again. So instead of, I'm not going to lie, I was really down on myself. But I had to look at, okay, I'm a designer. I'm a costume designer as well and a stylist. So what else can I do to make money? Because this is what I do full time. This is not a hobby for me. I have my son, I have rent, I have bills, car payments. And I was like, okay, the home market, everybody's home and the home market is booming right now. And that's when I came out with my home store. I had because I have a lot of suppliers outside of Trinidad. So I pay with my credit card for most of my stuff. So I have a lot of miles. And I use instead of using miles for tickets, I use it as money. And I started my home business. And that really pushed me through. Like right now, the home store is doing better than the clothing because I still have some of those pieces from that dress.
And anything is true in terms of the trends as well. And I think that was a discussion that took place with Kimya and that group for the creative industries. And even with Dr. Tully, you need to really think about where we are currently and where your customers are. And because we are home, we're inside. The lounge is something everybody was looking at the time, and then everybody was trying to fix up their space. Everybody became the better homemaker and the plant moms and plant dads.
Exactly.
So that's where most of the inspiration and I think too most of the spending went to. So I think too in terms of you actually pivoting to the Loud home accents, I congratulate you on that. Because it's something too that we saw that was like a kind of a need at a point in time. It wasn't just a want, because we wanted to feel good and the need was to purchase these types of things. So we don't want to kind of end again on a down note, but as I said, so congratulations with Loud home accents because we've seen some great things there. What's one piece of advice you'd like to give to anyone starting off in this career, and especially too because you do styling, you're in Carnival, and then you do fashion as well? One piece of advice.
One piece of advice I would say as a creative, I know I put the business part of it, but I think the financial part of it last. And that to me is the most important thing, especially if you want to apply for grant funding. And because we have a lot of funding going on right now, you can apply for a lot of grants from Europe through Caribbean
export and then through UNDP.
But you have to have your business in order. You have to have your business audited. So if you started in 2012 and you have not done any paperwork or accounting or anything like that, you have to do for all of the years coming forward. So it's better if you start now, get your books up to date. And I would also say pay attention to the market and the trends, because sometimes I want to create this collection because I think it would be great, but it's not about you, it's about what your customers want. And you need to really listen to them. And, for example, a wedding dress designer would be accustomed to creating these lavish dresses, but now the market doesn't want that. People are having backyard weddings because, of the lockdown and the restrictions. So they want simple pieces. And you can't continue to create lavish, dramatic stuff if people want
simplicity.
So you have to really pay attention. That is the most important thing. If you want to sell, pay attention to not even the market, your clients, what do they want?
Yes, totally agree.
Yeah. So that's
Thank you for that, Afia. And just 2 points before I go over to David as we're wrapping up. We will be speaking again about finances tomorrow, and even in terms of digital marketing and branding, because we need to understand, and even clarity in terms of Natalie earlier, she was actually able to give a little in terms of that, understanding your customer and meeting them where they are. So David, as we're wrapping up, we just want any advice to anyone in terms of being a part of this lovely industry that we're in, part being a creative entrepreneur. What do you think is, some advice you can leave with someone?
I think the two of the most important pieces of advice that I've ever gotten The first would be to really study your craft and educate yourself, immerse yourself in what you're getting into. Before I did my first runway collection, I volunteered at every possible fashion show that I could volunteer at. And I got behind the scenes. I got a behind the scenes look at what it really took to produce a successful collection. So first piece of advice would be to immerse yourself in whatever it is that you want to get into, especially if it's fashion. And the second would be to not just to try to build customers, but to build clients. Make sure that the people that you're attending to when you're selling garments or you're selling anything as a creative, that they're coming back to you and they're going to be lifetime clients. One of my fabric suppliers sat me down about 6 years ago and he told me, David, if you have 10 clients that get 10 pieces from you every year, that's already a start. He said, keep them happy. Find customers and turn them into clients. Keep them happy.
Yes.
So engross yourself. Be completely engulfed in whatever your passion is, so that you can evolve and you could dive into that, and that could be become a part of you. Be just an innate part of you and who you are, and take those customers and turn them into clients.
I like that. Really, really great and solid advice too. And I think for anybody in terms of what you're doing, especially even as a service provider or as anyone that's doing stuff in products, you make sure, as you say, turn those customers into clients. And that's when it becomes more of a relationship. It becomes more of a family. They become your fans, your tribe. So that's really solid advice. So I think we've covered a good amount of information here. We've been able to get some inspiration from Trinidad, Jamaica, and Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, that is. And I thank you all for being here with us this afternoon. In terms of we've been through a lot. We've seen the resilience still taking place, where we see James has now made that transition in terms of not just creating lovely pieces, but also offering his prints and his illustrations on fabrics, and you can get it for the home, for your wardrobe, and everything in between. You're seeing as well too, David, starring on Times Square and still pushing forward with collections. Afia, even though we know sometimes some issues might come up with the fashion side of things in Trinidad because of where we're at, but Loud Accents has been doing well. And Tisa, we know Rev is continuing what they're doing, and we're looking forward to see what comes out with IP. And even also that knowledge transfer that Dwayne is pushing forward in terms of teaching to actually train more metalsmiths and goldsmiths. That is totally necessary. We thank you all for being a part of this panel, and thank you for those joining us this afternoon. And I take Janine, you're muted.
Thank you, Caribbean Creatives and Aine, for that session this afternoon.
Totally
so much
welcome.
context rich. And we want to make sure that everyone has all the information available. Again, if you have questions, please place them in the Q&A tab, or you can put them in the comment section to the right side of your screen. I'm sure that our audience was inspired and energized by the information and insight shared on our Caribbean fashion, from our Caribbean fashion community. So, okay, folks, we have come to the end of discussions and conversations for day one. I'm sure that you've had a fantastic opportunity to hear from all the different sectors. We spoke to people from music, animation, fashion, theater, performing arts. And we do hope that you've been able to gain some new perspectives. I hope that these discussions have sparked some new conversation, and maybe you've learned something that you can carry forward in your personal professional development. This has been the first Caribbean Creative Entrepreneur Virtual Summit. Thank you to the Fashion Arch for putting all of this together. Thank you to all of our esteemed speakers, our moderators and panelists, and to you, our attentive audience. Last but not least, we thank our local hosts for this week of events, the Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago, YBTT, the Global Entrepreneurship Week of Trinidad and Tobago for their support and engaging this initiative to reboot, rethink, regenerate, and rise. We thank TCJ Events, Caribbean Posh, and Black Collar Creative. My name is Janine Charles Ferre. I have been your host. We will reconvene tomorrow on Saturday, 13th November at 10 a.m. for more conversation and interaction. But before we close off, please be reminded that the expo is still open. If you haven't already done so, the networking lounge is also open until 2 p.m. So you have one additional hour to network and speak to some of our speakers in the Q&A chat. Please enjoy. It was a pleasure to host this day of activities. Do enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. for day 2 of the Caribbean Creative Entrepreneur Virtual Summit.